The pro-Gaddafi forces have aircraft, the opposition fighters don't. It's their one really big disadvantage.
I'm Devi Gopal and you're watching Al Jazeera live from Doha. Also in this program, Egyptian protesters come up against armed men in the capital. And France's far-right leader takes pole position. Could Marine Le Pen really become the country's next president? So the battle for Libya is intensifying. The army and rebel forces clashing up and down the country's coastline. The latest developments: Colonel Gaddafi made a fleeting appearance in Tripoli's main square, showing his supporters he's still there, still fighting. But rebels say they're coming for him and are holding Misurata. 18 people reported to have been killed in the fighting. And they have regained AlJazeera, just 30 kilometers from the capital, Tripoli. Bin Jawad, though, closer to the anti-Gaddafi heartland, has apparently been retaken by the army. Well, nearby in Ras Laneuf, home to an important oil refinery, the fighting's been particularly heavy. Jackie Rowland is there and has been talking to the rebels.
The rebels are edging closer and closer to the Gaddafi heartlands. The territory they call Free Libya now extends almost as far west as Bin Jawad. That's just 200 kilometers from Gaddafi's hometown of Sirte.
We advanced to Bin Jawad and we discovered that Gaddafi troops had recruited teenagers and made them stand on the rooftops to shoot at us. After that, we decided to withdraw from Bin Jawad to work out a new strategy to return and capture the town.
The rebels are chaotic and living on their nerves. Their mood swings from panic to euphoria. But their great strength lies in the conviction that they are liberating their country. The skies are clear again after a sandstorm that lasted several days. And good visibility means enemy aircraft.
The rebels are vulnerable from the sky. The pro-Gaddafi forces have aircraft, the opposition fighters don't. It's their one really big disadvantage.
Capturing territory and capturing enemy soldiers too. The rebels take us to see a man they've been holding prisoner since Friday. He tells me he's a conscript in the Libyan army.
The army asked me what my specialty was. They posted me as a sentry and said, if you leave, we will shoot you.
Gaddafi's army may outgun the rebels, but the rebels outnumber the army. New volunteers are joining all the time and their morale is high. Just as well, since the heaviest fighting may still lie ahead. Jackie Rowland, Al Jazeera, Ras Laneuf in eastern Libya.
So let's see where the land lies for both sides in this growing conflict. These are the cities the anti-Gaddafi forces say are under their control. They're concentrated in the east. The second largest city in Libya, Benghazi, is in their stronghold. Gaddafi retains control of the capital, Tripoli. It's on security lockdown after clashes there erupted a week ago. Clashes continue in Tobruk. That's a city that was held by rebels a few days ago, as was AlZawiya, just outside of the capital. And Breha, too, also close to the center of the anti-Gaddafi stronghold in Benghazi. That's also where several British Special Forces soldiers were released after their capture by opposition forces in eastern Libya. Hoda Abdelhamid explains.
It's very difficult for anyone here to believe that these 8 British nationals were actually on a diplomatic mission, for the simple reason that they landed in the middle of the night by helicopter in a little town south of Benghazi. They had with them a whole lot of equipment, according to our sources: computers, maps, weapons and explosives. They were immediately intercepted by rebels and the residents of that area and handed over to authorities in Benghazi. Now, the National Council here in Benghazi says it had no idea that these 8 British nationals were on Libyan soil until they were handed over. They said that no one had told them about a diplomatic mission coming into the country.
The way they came in was inappropriate. They came into the country in the wrong way. We arrested them as soon as they touched the Libyan soil. For someone to just come in like that through the air without any permission or prior agreement is out of order. I mean, we have a state and we have a sovereignty. We have sovereignty over our borders, land, air and sea. Anybody who wants to come in must obtain a permission. I mean, how can this be a delegation of diplomats and come in this manner? We completely reject this.
They do raise the question that if they were really a diplomatic mission, why didn't they come through the normal route, and that will be through the Egyptian border with Libya. The National Council did say that at this stage it did not want to have any kind of international diplomatic row, so it handed them over to British authorities as quick as it could.
Let's look at some other news now. And protesters in Egypt say they've been attacked by security services and armed men in plain clothes. The demonstrators had been trying to storm a government building. They were looking for sensitive documents linked to Hosni Mubarak's regime. Amin Mohaldin has more from Cairo.
Outside the towering Ministry of Interior, they gathered, demanding access. But on Sunday evening, as the crowds grew, so too did the tension. The Egyptian military, under strict orders to prevent crowds from storming the sprawling security complex, fired warning shots into the air. The situation further complicated with the arrival of armed men, who the protesters described as former regime loyalists that tried to attack the crowds. Earlier on Sunday, the prosecutor general had ordered all state security buildings sealed. That decision came after protesters stormed the operational headquarters of the state security in another Cairo suburb. There they found documents, police records, underground rooms, and even a passageway that led to a secret living quarter they claimed was used by the powerful Minister of Interior, now standing trial. They also found bags of shredded documents. With the recent departure of the Mubarak-appointed Prime Minister Ahmed Shafiq, protesters feared that state security officials would attempt to destroy all evidence that would implicate them. After protesters stormed this massive state security compound behind me, Egypt's new Prime Minister asked anyone with incriminating evidence or documents to hand them over to the military so that they can be used in the prosecution of former regime officials. Documents like these, obtained by Isra Abdel Fattah, who was detained by state security twice for her political activism, show how state security was spying on her, even hacking into her email accounts to find out which organizations she was involved in and who she was in regular contact with.
These records show they were extremely paranoid from us. Every piece of information that for us seemed insignificant would be significant for them. They were convinced that there must have been some international organization behind my activities.
That sense of paranoia led state security to act with impunity for years, many say. State security was often accused of corruption, extortion, and torturing activists and citizens alike. Hussam Hamallawi was tortured while in the custody of state security.
State security has to be dissolved completely.